Hey everybody, it's Jesse with EMS, and today I got my friends Bobby and Yusuf with me. We're going to assemble some Engineered Motorsport Solutions BaBuBu short blocks. We got a high comp variant for Yusuf and a standard comp variant for Bobby. We got their cylinder heads here, lashes set, cams are ready. So we're just going to do a simple walkthrough video of like, I just received my short block, what are the steps to make that a complete engine. So come along with us and hopefully you learn something. So right now the blocks are as they would have came to you from EMS. The only thing we've done is we've cleaned the decks, made sure there's no oil on them. A lot of times we leave a little bit of oil on them in shipping. You need to wipe that down and clean it. So now we're ready to put our head studs in. So now we'll get these guys ready to get their studs. They'll make sure the end is slightly lubed with some ARP lube and get those inserted into the block. Torque out this, but you don't want to try to get these not bottom down.
Right. Okay.
Alright, now they've got their head studs installed into the short block. We're going to get their head gaskets on, get the head gaskets on the short blocks. Then we're going to get the heads prepped to go back onto the short block. So we got Yusuf and Bobby's heads here. As you can see, we've got the buckets labeled. That's because we've already set the lash and we've labeled the buckets just in case they might slide out. We know where it goes. They go to these camshafts and this cylinder head, so we got to keep them isolated. Another important part to remember, the cam caps, they need to stick to the head they belong to. It's not a part we can just interchange. We've had people send in heads before and cam caps will be missing, or they want us to use other cam caps and they're junk at that point. So we got to make sure cam caps stay with each head as well. But we've already cleaned up the bottom of them. Like I said, the lash is ready to go. So the next step is Bobby and Yus are going to get their heads and lay them down on the short block, and then we can get the heads or the nuts and the washers installed, torque the head down, and finish up assembly.
These are going over there. There you go.
Look at this, dude.
This is a good experience for you guys too, you know? I wish I'd have had somebody at your all's age to like sit here and show me this stuff. I mean, I learned it, but it was like read on the forums, no YouTube. I mean, YouTube, but not like it is now, of course, you know, but it's more like read forums and then read stuff and read stuff. It's like, okay, I think I know what I'm supposed to do, you know?
Right. And are the ARP head studs gonna get tightened anymore, or do we?
Yeah, we're about to torque them. You gotta tighten every one of them down to 35 foot-pounds. Loosen it. Tighten them down to 35 foot-pounds. Loosen it. Tighten them down 35 foot-pounds. Then torque it.
Oh, Lord.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shit. No, it'll vibrate on the next torque, but not 35. We just kind of sit here and just. Okay. So it's, I don't know if you caught that, but it's got a motor, so you can use that some too. So do you see how I'm doing it too?
Like a star pattern.
Exactly. From the inside out. There's a specific sequence. All that matters is that you work your way inside out and crossways. That's so then 35. And with the digital torque wrench, for accurate torque, it's important that you maintain a constant velocity on the pull.
Oh, so
If you do a jerk, I mean, you can, it just throws it off. You got to maintain a smooth pull. So like when I'm pulling it, you'll watch. That's me just getting the slack out with the motor, right? And I'll just kind of see no jerking, just smooth, and then just watch the screen.
Anything you need will be in this man's pocket right here.
I need it for 85. But 85 is special. It's a little bit more. 80 is
Now it's time to do the last 85 and then mark.
Yep.
Sweet.
All right. So right now, Bobby's gonna basically just confirm that everything's torqued to spec, and then we just use this. I'm colorblind, so probably orange. I think orange marker, and we're just gonna dot.
Wait, did you get
right
85?
after.
Yep.
Yeah. We didn't dot it yet. We're still gonna do it
Yeah,
after.
check
He,
it.
See how he understands the technique and he's not dying of sweat yet, and you were like full.
No, it's not no game.
And I did it
Yo.
for him, and I did 85. Hey, did you tell you I did it for him, and you pulled it off and he did?
The retorque, right?
Hey,
I
bro,
did the
like
first
it's
torque,
crazy
dog.
that the cart starts like
Yeah,
fucking
dude.
tipping shit.
Listen, did you? I was like, here, let me get that for you, dog. You can't pull it off.
No, that was the second time.
When you're checking? Oh, I
Yeah,
have
when I
to
was
check.
checking.
I'm weak as fuck right now, bro. Like this is
All right, in 3, 2,
Do we want to make this funny?
let's go. 1.
Oh god, I think I'm
All right, so next we get to lube up our camshafts. This is something that Bobby's extremely good at.
cut.
So Bobby,
Cut.
squirt some lube into your hand. I don't know which one you prefer.
Which one do you think I prefer?
I don't know. Oh, he's a righty.
Whichever one.
Well, you need
yesterday.
more lube. That's all you.
A good amount?
I feel sad for that thing.
It's good. It don't need that much.
That's not. It's tiny.
It's unfortunate, but
All right, so now take in. Put your lube down.
put the lube down.
Grab your camshaft. Hold your shaft. Hold your shaft. Now take that lube and let's put it around all these lobes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely a.
Is that a
that's one
bad
way to do it. That's one way to do it.
Bob, you gotta do it like
Oh, my
what,
bad.
you know what you did to me yesterday? That's what
Somebody
you gotta
give me
do
a
to this.
glove. Look,
Huh?
look.
What?
Close your hand. Close your hand. There you go. Now.
Oh, really?
now.
Oh,
Now just
I
go
told you.
all the way up and down.
Right, yeah, okay.
See how much quicker that is?
That's why I said whatever you did to me
If you give
yesterday,
it that
bro. Look at
move,
this shit.
shit,
Look
look
at
at
him.
Hey, remember?
Look at him.
Talking about being lubed up.
You know how much quicker you'll finish that way?
Oh, God, no, 100%.
Look,
That
look at
twisting
him.
blade in here.
So something like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
HPFP lube goes back here.
Oh, so it's here,
Look.
this side.
Yep. So. Right there. Just lay it down, bud. All right, go get your intake cam. Move that son bitch up same way.
Let's go.
The EZ cam.
Say no more.
It's not
Maybe
stopping,
small
by the way.
fluid. Ja.
10-4.
And you want to flip it 180?
180.
Flip it 180. Boom. Layer down because that's closer to top dead center. Okay.
Go forward cams. Look at that.
Nice.
Sure shit.
Now you need to do the same thing. Then we'll get your cam caps and put them on. Did you put a bolt in it or?
Yeah, you like watching that, don't you? Fucking.
So an important aspect of putting the cylinder head together is making sure that the cam caps are put on the right way and the right orientation. More so than not, we get heads in or engines in that somebody else has been in, and these things will actually be backwards. So let's talk about it a little bit. We all know at the timing cover is cylinder 1, so we always start from the front, and that's the same as the numbering on these cam caps. Okay. So we got I2, we'll go here, I3, I4, and I5. And it's important to note that the letter and the number designation that's inscribed on the cam cap goes outward. That's where a lot of people mess up. So you get all those on, then we can start tightening them down and start torquing them to spec. Another thing to note too is if you get confused, there's a dot peen dot. That faces front of engine. For the last cam cap on the exhaust side, beside the high pressure fuel pump lobe, you need to apply some anaerobic sealant right here along the outside of this groove. Just crank it down on one spot, you're bending it because you gotta think it's got several springs under it loading it. So let's get those snug and then move on to the next one. Yeah, so this engine is Bobby's engine. Kelford was gracious enough to give us a set of their Kelford 250 EZ cams for Bobby's engine. They give us this set so we can get some testing, get some data, give you guys an idea of the power curve you should expect out of these cams. These cams are spec'd well for a daily driver. They have 8 millimeters of lift on the intake side and 7.5 millimeters of lift on the exhaust side, with a 250 intake duration and a 248 exhaust duration. Now we'll go over here and we'll talk about Yusuf's camshafts. Similar situation, Kelford hooked us up here. Yusuf got their 250A camshaft. This is a little bit more aggressive camshaft. This is more for you guys who are going to be weekend warriors or street racers. This one's got a little bit more lift to it. On this one, the intake cam has 9.5 millimeters of lift and the exhaust has 9 millimeters of lift. Similarly, the intake cam has 262 degrees of duration and the exhaust camshaft has 252 degrees of duration. Now, it should be worth noting they have another camshaft, the 250B, and I would say that is more of your serious racer camshaft. Don't have the specs handy, but if I recall correctly, it's somewhere in the ballpark of 10.8 to 11 millimeters of lift, and somewhere in the 268 and 272 duration. And then, of course, too, we got the 250X cam that we're using on my car, a custom spec, tons of lift, a lot of duration. The special 3-lobe, that's also going to be something that hopefully myself, Kelford, and XDI are going to bring to market for those guys who want to go all out and drag race as well. Also, it shouldn't go without mentioning that we have Kelford drivetrain components in here. They're beehive springs and they're titanium retainers.
Just trying to see.
So now we're going to put our oil pump chain and our oil pump sprocket on. With the keyed crank, this is just a little different. You have to take a little extra regard. So we have both of these lined. Pump with the flat up, sprocket with the line up. We'll slide it around the back of our engine, or the back of our crankshaft sprocket. and then boom, there we go. So now we're fully engaged. Now we'll take our oil pump sprocket bolt. We like using a little bit of Loctite, put it in here. And we just do that because out of all the bolts in this engine, if one's going to come loose, it seems to be this guy or your bottom rear main seal bolts. And we put Loctite on both of those. Now we'll get our torque wrench and we'll torque that to spec. We're good. Hold it. So now Bobby's installing the oil pump chain tensioner. As you can see, we go ahead and we mount the bolt, or we mount the tensioner, then we pull the spring down and put the other bolt in, that you can release the spring and that'll set tension on the oil pump chain. Bobby's over here eating his shit down, wrench click, he's still turning. Okay, next we're going to take our timing chain. We've got our phasers on the cams, they're still loose. Just drape our chain across our phasers, make sure we get it behind this dowel. Go ahead and get this over our sprocket on the crank. Take our left side guide, go ahead and we'll slide it on the dowel.
Wow.
Then we'll take our right side guide. You'll see you'll have this little indentation on the back on it that goes to the back. That's to clear the OEM rivet they put in there, or any plug that an aftermarket engine builder may have installed. Have a M6 fastener here, another M6 fastener here. And then we'll have our timing chain tensioner. Push this over. We'll start these bolts. Then we'll torque everything down, pull the pin, then we can time the engine. Next, we're going to put our engine in time. We're going to start by inserting our crankshaft stop bolt. We want to make sure that the crankshaft isn't at top dead center currently. Ideally, we would have it somewhere between 45 and 90 degrees away from top dead center before we insert this bolt. So this bolt threads in a good ways. But once you're in there, now we'll rotate the crank clockwise. You hear that positive stop, we know that now the bottom end of the engine at least is at top dead center. Now we'll get the cams, the cam plate put in so the cams will be in time, and then we can torque down our assembly and the engine will be in time at that point. Come around to the rear, this is something we need to talk about. When timing Kelford cams, it's really important to know that on the exhaust cam, you're going to have two slits. You need to use the slit that is denoted by the small detent above the horizontal line. So as you can see, we've got our plate in position on the exhaust and the intake. You always want to try to get as close as you can. Sometimes you have to tweak things a little bit, but you want to be able to have this plate freely in here. You don't want it to be in a bind. So we have the plate in where we want it. We have our crank on top dead center. Now we will put our cam bolts in and torque the cam phasers to spec, and the engine will be in time. Ready? Yeah. Go. Spin the engine over twice, put everything back in, make sure that we're good. So off top dead. One, two.
Dude, this is fucking dope.
Top dead center. And that's why we do it. Now we're going to put the engine in time so we can get the covers on it, get this thing sealed up. So when inserting this rear cam plate, it can be a bit difficult or a bit tricky. So there's a few tips I want to give you to help the newer people doing this. The slot in the cam is on a circle, but it's not center, it's offset. So it's really obvious to tell which way is up. You want that slot to be offset upward, not offset downward. So if you spin it around and it's offset downward, you're 180 degrees out on that cam. Spin it to where that offset is up. Also on the exhaust cam, make sure that you put it in the slot on the exhaust cam that has the detent dot above the horizontal line there. Another way to tell if you're not sure about which way is the offset up on the back of the cams is if you look at cylinder 1, the point of the lobe should be pointing at the corner of the cam cap when you're top dead center. So that's just another way to think about that when you're putting this plate on. But the idea is you want to get it to where you can put the plate in pretty easy. You don't want to have to fight it in there. If you have to fight it in there, it's not the best. So now the trick is just torquing everything and keeping that kind of play in the plate. Now Bobby's going to put his oil pickup tube on. That takes 2 bolts to bolt to the oil pump and 1 bolt that bolts to the main girdle. And you may notice when you go to install this on one of our twin scroll blocks that you're going to have a tab on this oil pickup tube with no bolt hole. Don't worry about it. Between these 2 bolts and this bolt, that's plenty enough bracing and support to support the oil pickup tube without issue. The 2.3 block has a special main bolt that you can buy and put there, but it's not really been necessary, so we don't bother with it.
Click on your little left. You loosen it.
It's better to put them on first.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, shit happens. That's perfect then.
I mean, this is definitely more than I've ever done.
Do you need 2 of those?
Open, too.
Yeah, it's a... There we go.
What do you need 2 bucks?
Yep. There we go. Now just put 2 bolts. It's fun, bro. It's straight.
How do you... Alright, let me check my hole. You're ready.
Ready.
Okay, hold on. Hold up. I'm looking lined here. On a footer.
I'm looking right to the other boards.
The right by my foot. Will you push yours down?
Don't mess up. Don't mess up. Don't mess up, bro. Shut the fuck up.
So we're just finishing up here. Bobby's over here applying the Permatex or the silicone to his timing cover so we can install it, while Yusuf is sitting here finishing torquing all of his bolts and getting the timing cover completed. Once we get done with that, we'll get valve covers on them and they're done, guys. They're ready to go enjoy these engines. Yes. Get y'all bring your crank positions. Wow, first one. Because I can get it.
Damn, bro, it's that bad for you.
All right, we got our timing cover on, our oil pan on. Before we get the valve cover on, we need to install our VCT solenoids, so that's what Bobby's about to do here. 2 bolts torqued to 89 inch-pounds. Then we'll put our last cam cap on here, torque it down, valve cover time.
At what point do these go bad?
Never seen it.
Never seen it, right? So they're...
Question. It's about that.
Go ahead.
Mine leak. Does that have to do with
mine.
No, it's the seals and the valve cover, but I guess y'all got new valve covers, so.
We do.
Probably so.
Perfect.
See this? Electronics.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
No, it's torque though, not you. Where's that torque?
I'm just confused.
We ain't got one, Reggie. It ain't no biggie.
Oop, there it was.
Okay, so the last steps here, we're going to put a little bit of Permatex or silicone sealant in these corners right here, just to make sure the valve cover seals. Also, at this step, if they had their vacuum pump adapter here, I'd show when we install it. But you'll need to take your vacuum pump adapter out of your intake cam. It's a Allen head bolt or Allen head, fastener, if you will. It's an adapter. It looks like a big bolt, but it goes in the back of your intake cam. It has a slit in it, and that's what your vacuum pump will pop into. So if you don't put that in, your vacuum pump's not going to work. So make sure you take that out of your intake cam and insert it into the new Kelford cam when you're putting your engine together.
Do it again? Oh, wow. Nah, he's good with that shit, bro. Atta Rich. Good shit, bro.
No, bottom first.
Bottom first.
Set the bottom down and then hold this and roll the top in. Alright, hold the tool. Push it in the back. There you go.
Sure as shit. Wow, Bubba.
All right, we've got our valve cover on, all of our covers on, sealed up. Last step, we'll put our balancer on, put our crank bolt in, torque it. We'll be complete. Nice fit.
I believe that's all.
This is just for safety. The crank and the damper are mechanically coupled now, but we do this for just in case. Take our damper and spin our engine back just a little bit from top dead so we can put our stop in to torque the bolt. There we go. So now, torque wrench. And we're done. Use. All right, we got the engines fully assembled, all covers on. There's just a few other things you need to consider to like finish the long block assembly before you go to put it in your car. Just little details that people might miss. One would be this plug right here. Typically behind the AC, you have a plug that just blocks this hole off. That's the access hole we use to set the timing with, so you'll need to pull that out of your old engine and install that. On this side, you'll also need to take your breather plate off and reinstall it onto your new long block. And lastly, the biggest change that we often get asked about is right here. On the 2.3 liter block, the water pump housing bolts on, but on the twin scroll and the ST block, it is cast into the block. Many times we get calls and questions saying, hey Jesse, my water pump won't go on. The water pump don't work on this. Well, that's just not the case. You have to remove the water pump from the bolt-on housing on the 2.3 liter block, and then it fits right in here and bolts up just like normal. So just always remember that. And then the very last thing, when you go to put your engine mount on your Mustang, you're going to notice you're missing one bolt hole over here, but don't worry, we've been running these with 3 bolts right there and we've never had issues with it. But yeah guys, that's it. So hopefully you learned something, and now when you go to install your short block and assemble it into a long block, you got a guide to use, and hopefully I've taught you something. So if you need any help with any of the parts, engines, or anything else EcoBoost related, make sure to hit up our website at www.engineermotorsportsolutions.com. You can also check us out on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Most importantly though, please go like and subscribe to all of our videos on YouTube, and we're going to put up more videos like this on the things that people come up to day to day on these engines. And soon we will have our S650 EcoBoost Mustang, and we plan on tearing the engine out of that, tearing the engine down, doing a big comparison between the Gen 1 2.3 and I guess the Gen 2 EcoBoost 2.3 liters. So come follow along with us on that journey too.
Let's fucking go.
Boom.